Okay. So Jon Jones and his picogram. So Jon Jones is now feeling so confident about that USADA is behind him, that whatever drug testing. Look, I've been cleared. I've been cleared so much that I'd like to be the first athlete in history to go back and clear other steroid incidences I've had in the past, to give me my belt back from previous things. This is a whole other level of crazy. I can't believe it. So the guy thinks he's working the system so well that basically he doesn't have to worry about whether or not he even fails after the test. He's already talking about getting back the other results from years ago. Now, he talks about 1 picogram being in my system. It's not in your system. It's in that one specific drop of blood. And they tested other times with you, and they were up to 60 picograms from what I understand. So when Frank Mir failed for 17, I think it was, what makes you cleaner than him? Why does Frank Mir not get back his title? Anyway, I think it's really, really insulting that now Jon Jones not only has gotten to beat the system multiple times, I mean, in multiple violations, he should never have another issue with anything. And I mean, it's at the point where his boss is saying, I'll kill myself if he fails again. Shit, that's not a great bet, but you'll see how far out on a limb they'll go if you're a money maker. I don't even think you should keep steroids out of sports, but asterisk next to the name. Come on, how can you put him in the running for greatest of all time and we talk about all these records he beat at how young he was. You know his brothers all failed for steroids too, right? I think multiple times. They're in a dirty sport that we know is one that is rarely checked at all, and even if you checked, you just get a suspension short term. You're back to your sport immediately. That's the thing. I think a lot of people think that when you take steroids, it's a career breaker. Nope. Multiple sports don't care at all. Go ahead, Inson Inoue. Look at the podcast with him and Joe Rogan, talking about sports in Japan. So, yeah, it's this is a whole other level of crazy, though. So besides him getting away with it, there's no evidence that he's anything dirtier than anybody else. But I see no evidence, even after the Nowitzki podcast with Joe Rogan, I haven't seen anything else talking about that these guys are for sure, that he's for sure clean. No. Said there were some weird circumstances. They wouldn't have time to be able to meet up before Christmas. Really, for millions of dollars, you can't get a business meeting going between. Then they mentioned the other company. We're working with some of the best companies. Yeah, but we don't know that. We don't know their record. We're just trusting one guy, Nowitzki, who doesn't work for anybody except for the UFC. So what's Nowitzki's motivation? To sweep things under the rug or to handle damage control or whatever it is. But you know, then see, if we're allowing fighters like that to even enter the conversation, then we have to say like Fedor Mirko Krokop is one of the greater fights in history. That shouldn't that still be atop the list? Because yeah, both guys were on steroids, but so what? We knew they were both on steroids. We could see when they even had to come off of steroids. Multiple of these guys. Jon Jones is now not only saying that he won't stop doing steroids, but that he's basically, anybody fighting him in the future must know he's probably going to fail for at least a few picograms, which is what we used to consider a dirty test. Forget however he wants to explain it. He can ridicule and end interviews, and I mean, what a sad way to defend something, because John, you have my respect as a fighter, you have my respect as an athlete, and just because you did some roids does not mean that that's what got you to the top. But when things come really close between you and Gustafsson, and we assume Gustafsson had no issues ever and will continue to have no issues ever, how do you not even give him an asterisk next to the name? Because here's the thing, like if Jones really wanted his system clean, couldn't he afford, doesn't he have the millions to be able to stop people from giving him anything dirty? Can't he eat at restaurants where the dude could bring his own fucking food from home? The dude could bring his own workout supplements everywhere. I don't know why he needs to take something from somebody. Oh, and the other thing too, like Schaub likes to say, big hippo eyes. He's only had the decisions overturned early because he's worked with the industry snitching on people or being an informant. Sorry, but what's the difference? So Jon Jones, the greatest of all time, is actually the greatest informant of all time because he's the highest profile. And who do you have to snitch on to get yourself out of trouble if you're Jon Jones, the golden boy of all these industries? I mean, Nike sponsored him. Didn't he have the Gatorade one before them? The only guy I ever saw in MMA with just one sponsor on his shorts when people used to have multiple sponsors. So the guy's going to rewrite the rules. This is crazy. This is like Shaquille O'Neal needing to bring in new rims because, look, you broke the rim so many times. Stop breaking the rules, Shaq. Well, it's not the rules, but we have to make a rule now for it. We got to make a rule that fighters can't dance at the picogram level. Plus, not to mention, Jones has made a career at being the literally largest the man can possibly be in the division. So he never has to fight somebody with a bone structure as big as his. Gustafsson is the only man close to his size that he fights. So, stop this dehydrating thing. Let him have to fight at heavyweight. He'll probably destroy heavyweights as well. The guy is legitimately a great fighter. I mean, anybody taking that away from Jon, and to say that he hasn't put in work or didn't deserve it, no. I'm just saying, at least let's be honest for the kids that can't afford the drugs and aren't. Otherwise, we're creating a pretty weird standard for being, what is it? You've got to be 24, 23 when he was a champion of the world for the first time. And it was like less than 5 years or something, it seemed like, from when he hit the scene to champion already super strong, super ripped, breaking, doing all kinds of heavy lifting and stuff with his brothers, showing off his dominance in many, many ways. But we've allowed a new era of cheater to come into the atmosphere. And somehow he's taking the victim status, even while he's smiling at us. It's almost as if, I've done nothing wrong. I'm a great, so just forget about all the stuff we've done. But there's tons of stuff before the steroids. There's the other drugs. There's the hit and run stuff. Like that's kind of. But again, not hating on Jones. Not hating on Jones. I think he's really important for the sport. But he's also one of the worst things to ever happen to the sport. Look at guys like Alexander Gustafsson, DC, all the guys he's beat. Teixeira. What if he hadn't destroyed Teixeira with that hand fighting and elbows? Because Jon definitely seems to have an issue with confidence, because whenever you attack his confidence, he really goes hard at defending it. He had a hard time defending Gustafsson with the verbal aspects. And Gustafsson's so weak and so nice with his words. It's just, I wish he would have gone after him a little harder. I think he ended one exchange with the, "Oh, okay, Jon. Okay, Jon." Something like that, and just completely backed down from something Jon was saying. And he should have gone after him. "Oh, you couldn't beat me even if I was on something." "Oh, okay, Jon. Say something." Anyway, Jon is a new era of guy. He wants the rules changed for him so he can continue to be as dirty as he has been in the past. Forget about even the drugs. Forget about even the stuff outside of the UFC. He's arguably a dirty fighter because of the eye pokes. He's still doing this eye poke stuff. He got Gustafsson again with another one, which makes Gustafsson have to avoid those eye pokes, and they're an illegal move. And they don't stop that at all. They just gave another warning again, which is typical. But if Jon gets away with one or two eye pokes every single fight, maybe the warning should be pre-fight. He knows what he's doing by now. The finger's open. Should be something already fixed by the glove or fixed by something else. We could add the closed fist gloves, or just make it illegal to fight with your hands out like this. Because it seems like multiple times he put his hand on Gustafsson's face and tried to push off with the fingers, trying to scrape at his eyes. There were less eye pokes than last time, but I think Gustafsson learned how to. He probably practiced for those. But yeah, man. Not only do I not believe Jones, well, of course, he has a huge money incentive to protect his entire brand, and I don't expect him to give you honesty about his brand. But like I said, he wants to whine for a victim status that allows him to get other failed tests in the future. And guess what? Just that doesn't take away anything from him in his eyes. And it really should. It really should, because like at least the previous decisions, really, you're going to go after those? Everything. So everything is going to be all Jon Jones' favor. And he's going to make the UFC look really bad if he pushes so hard, because this is going to make all the others, everybody that had to fight Mark Hunt, all the ex-heavyweight champions minus Kane, all have been caught for steroids. And Stipe, not Kane, not Stipe, but I'm pretty sure even Verdum, Dos Santos, everybody that's been the champion. Ngannou doesn't pass the smell test, but who knows? You know, Brock, they allow him to fight multiple times, whether he fails pre-fight testing, post-fight testing, and they don't strip any medals from him. So I think this is just more from the UFC. Still love the sport. I still think the UFC is absolutely, wouldn't you rather watch something that has some judges that make some bad calls, or make something to protect the business end once in a while, rather than, at least in basketball, you know, they might rig the entire playoffs. Well, you know, at least you can't just barely win by a point here in fighting. You can go for the finish regardless. You know, Gustafsson didn't finish Jones in the previous matchup when they went that 5 rounds. So he had his chance regardless of how much I would like to advocate that, oh, he won by points. Whatever, dude. It doesn't matter. You had your chance at least to push through your dominance. And now, a different era. Thanks, Jon, for teaching kids how America can be great again with needles.